Hello, welcome to the Relationships and Chill podcast, the ultimate podcast for relationships and dating. And today we have a very, very special guest. I want you to make sure you get ready because this is going to blow your socks off. We have an amazing interview with a very special guest, so make sure you stay tuned. Peace.
You're listening to Relationships and Chill, the podcast for singles and couples about how to find and cultivate the relationship you've always dreamed of, based on trust and honest communication. Why waste your time going through the typical dating obstacle course, only to end up with drama, jealousy, and heartbreak, when you can find the love of your life and live happily ever after? So sit back, chill, and get ready to make relationships great again.
Greetings, everyone. Greetings. Welcome to another edition of the Relationships and Chill podcast. I am your gracious host, Coach R. Anthony, and welcome to the Relationships and Chill podcast, the ultimate podcast for dating and relationships. We strive to make relationships simple and help you become the best so that you can attract the best, and also make sure that you can do everything possible to make sure that your relationship functions to the best of its ability. Today we have a very, very special guest. I want to take the time to welcome him. He is a relationship coach, author, and speaker whose main goal is to revolutionize relationships for the better using biblical principles. He has clients from all over the U.S. and he's based out of New Jersey. When he's not coaching, he enjoys reading, traveling, and trying new foods from the different places that he visits. You guys, this is going to be an excellent show. You make sure you tell everybody to tune in. But my special guest is Stephen L. Robinson. Y'all give it up for Stephen.
Man, it's such an honor to be on your show, man. Yo, I've been following you for some time right now, and your content is amazing. So when you reached out to me to be on the show, I was excited. I could not turn this down. So thank you for having me.
Man, thank you for agreeing, man. I've been following your stuff, and you know what's crazy? I would be on there and looking up hashtags on Instagram, and I'd be like, okay, let me see what I need to figure out how to place the material that I'm working on. And every time I would see a video and I was like, let me see what he's talking about. And I promise you, as I did, I was like, man, this is some amazing content, man. This is some great stuff that people really, they really need, and they definitely gravitate towards. So definitely big shout out to you, man, for real, for doing what you're doing, because you know how easy it is to kind of sit back and be like, yeah, I kind of know a lot about relationships, and and these other relationship people are giving their input, and that's all fine and dandy, but I have a different perspective. But to actually go forward and put yourself out there and put your content out there, it takes a lot, so I definitely, commend you for taking that step.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate it, man.
So we'll just pretty much just hop right into it, because I want the people to get everything that you have to offer. I know they're going to really enjoy this episode with the content that we're going to be providing. So just give us a little information about you, and let's set the stage for how we're going to provide the people with, I guess, the best of what they need, obviously. But I want you to tell a little bit about your backstory and how you got to where you are.
Okay, yeah. So how I got to where I am, man. So let me tell you, how I got to where I am came from a lot of heartbreak and turmoil, right? So I'm 33 years old right now, right? But I've been in 2 long-term relationships, right? One relationship I was in for 8 years, and the other relationship I was in for 6 years. And I always used to think to myself, I thought I was a good man because I didn't lie and because I didn't cheat. But it takes more than just not lying and just not cheating to be a good man, right? And so there were qualities about me, about my characteristic that I lacked, right? So it ended up, the woman that I was with for 8 years, she ended up cheating on me with 13 different men.
Wow.
13 different men. Imagine being in a relationship and you find out that your partner cheats on you with 13 different people.
Right.
That is heartbreaking. That's very, very devastating, right? And at that current point in time, like I was like, I wanted to I remember I was in California at the time when I found out, and I was driving from, if anybody knows anything about Central California, I lived in the Fresno area. So I was driving from Visalia to Lemoore, and there's a long highway. And I remember that I wanted to just drive myself off the road because I was so devastated. But I remember hearing a voice in my head saying, Stephen, don't do this. You have so much more to live for, right? And so, I didn't. So that's why I'm here today, right?
Absolutely.
And then I got into another relationship. After I ended that relationship, I got into another relationship, and I was with this woman for 6 years, but she ended up leaving me for another man, and she ended up having a baby with this other man and starting a family. Now, that is devastating,
Right.
when a woman leaves you for another man and starts a whole nother family, right? So I told myself, I said, you know what, this is never going to happen to me again. And I said, I'm going to start studying relationships, not for other people, but for myself, right? Because I was like, well, what could I have done better in this relationship? So I started studying. And then that's when I started coming to God, and and I started getting into his word and how powerful he is and how he views relationships and things of that nature. So I was studying, and then I would talk to my friends and I would talk to my family members about it. And they was like, man, you have some amazing, amazing views on relationship. Where did you get all this from? And I said, I've just been studying relationships because of the 2 heartbreaks. And they was like, wow, you should be a relationship counselor, a relationship coach. I mean, not coach, therapist. And we all know counselors and therapists, you got to go to school for that, right? And I my master's degree in business, and I have my bachelor's degree in culinary arts. So I did not want to go to school again, right? I was all schooled out, right? So, when I was looking up these things, I found out that you could be a coach, and you don't need to go to school to be a coach. Anybody can call themselves a coach, which there's a downside to that and, an upside to that, because people like you and me who really study relationships, we didn't have to go to school, but we're a student of our experiences. We're a student of other people's experiences, the books that we read, and, things of that nature, the biblical principles on relationship. And with that being said, I said, well, you know what? I could do this. And so that's how I ended up becoming a relationship coach, because I see so many relationships out there struggling, like how mine was struggling. I see so many people that think they are good men and good women, but do they truly have the characteristics to be in a relationship? Absolutely. Right. And so I said, you know what? It's time for me to start revolutionizing relationships for the better. And I know that's a hard task, because there's 7 billion people in this world, and not everybody's unhappy, but there's a lot of people that are unhappy. There's a lot of people that are looking for answers in their relationship. So that's how I ended up starting to coach on relationships.
Absolutely. Wow. That's powerful. And, like you said, being able to take a look at yourself and saying, hey, maybe I need to figure this out. They can't, it's easy to get into a place where you're blaming other people. And I think that kind of stops you from seeking answers, because the answer that you come up with is always someone else. Right. It's always going to be someone else that creates the problem for me. And in doing so, you never really progress, and you never really seek those answers. And in seeking those answers, you begin to expand yourself. Like you said, you begin to expand yourself, and you take on a different perspective of what these different components mean within a relationship. So it causes you to dig a little bit deeper before you allow yourself to invest into being in a relationship with someone. You don't just give yourself in to someone just because you have the need, or you feel lonely, or whatever the case may be. And a lot of people, that's where they are. They don't take the time to really. And I think that's why it's so important that you and I take, give the information and present it to people so that they can have the opportunity to maybe look at things from a different perspective.
Correct.
And so I think now, give us your idea of what it means to revolutionize a relationship, or relationships in general.
Okay, yeah, definitely. So what I'm trying to say with that is, and I want to make this clear, revolutionizing relationships for the better.
For the better, right.
So what I mean by that is basically it's my responsibility and other coaches' responsibility to show people how to communicate effectively with their partner,
Mhm.
how to not only communicate effectively to their partner, but connect with their partner.
Mhm.
Because there's a difference. You can communicate with your partner all day long, but are you truly connecting with your partner? Are you truly creating togetherness with your partner? Because a lot of people, like I said, they don't have relationship characteristics,
Mhm.
right? A lot of people are selfish and they don't realize that they're selfish. They get into a relationship like, what can this person do for me? No, it's not what can this person do for me. It's actually what can I do for this person? And if if both of the parties have that understanding, right, that would make for a great relationship. So when I say revolutionizing relationships for the better, it's strictly just giving people the components to be able to make relationships work and thrive. We don't just want good relationships. We don't just want great relationships. We want phenomenal relationships.
I understand. Yes, sir. I understand. What has been, um, what has been some of the biggest obstacles you faced in helping couples revolutionize their relationship? What are some common themes that you kind of run across in your journey?
So and I go back to communication.
Mhm.
That's one of the most problems that I run into, like in my coaching clients. They always say, like I'm trying to talk to this person or, talk to their partner and they're just not getting it. They're just not listening. But a lot of the times, right, when there's a situation that arises, we don't have the tools to be able to effectively communicate. And what I mean by that is I'll just give an example. I'm not going to give no names, but one of my coaching clients said that, her boyfriend, husband did something, right? And immediately she reacted, right?
Mhm.
And I don't know if you've seen my video where I talked about reacting versus responding,
Mhm.
right? So there's a difference. Reaction is strictly just something straight off the hip, but
Right.
responding is taking the time to listen to what your partner has to say, to try to understand what your partner is going through, because every life has a story. We don't necessarily know, why this person might have done what they did, but it's your job as a partner to truly listen. And that's how you are able to effectively communicate, because once you listen and you try to put yourself in that other person's shoes, then you can come back to them with a solution or something of that nature. So like I was saying, communication is the biggest barrier that I run into when it comes to relationships not working.
Right. Absolutely. And like you said, a lot of people listen to respond as opposed to listen to understand.
Right.
To be able to communicate effectively, you have to first receive the information being communicated. But
Correct.
because people feel the need to want to be right, or they don't want to take what the person is saying as, and I've noticed it too in my coaching, that a lot of couples, what they do is they'll already come in with their fists ready to fight,
Mm-hmm.
so they're ready to go as soon as the conversation starts, or they're pretty much ready to go, but as the situation escalates, then they get more defensive and more defensive, and then before you know it, it's a full-blown argument, and nothing good comes out of it.
Right.
And
Correct.
so I think it's very important to distinguish. I think it's very important. We'll come back to that point right there, but I think it's good at this moment to distinguish between being together and togetherness, meaning the connection between the two. You got a lot of couples who are together, but they don't have that union. They don't have that common union. So how important is that common union, that togetherness, and in a relationship?
Oh, it's very important, because that's one of the ways that you're going to make your relationship thrive. Because, like you said, a lot of couples are together,
Hmm.
but there's no togetherness, right? And a couple can be together, and one person out of the couple is selfish,
Hmm.
right? So when you create togetherness, that shows that you're thinking about the person. That shows that you're considering that person. So, like, let's just say, if I want to get something to eat, right? I want to communicate that with my partner, and you want to think about, although I might want, KFC, and which KFC is probably not, the best for me,
Right.
and my partner wants salad works, right?
Hmm.
It's about compromising, right? It's not about what can I get. It's about what can we give to each other. And in turn, when you give to each other, that creates a great connection and that creates togetherness versus just being together and I'm doing my own thing and you're doing your own thing, but we call each other a couple. Does that make sense?
Okay, I understand. And that's extremely important to have. How can a couple start to develop? Because after a couple has been together, let's say you got two extremes. You got a couple that's pretty brand new, and then you have a couple that's been together, and this is their pattern of how they relate to each other. So now they're relating to each other on a combative scale. How do we start to dial that back in order to reestablish the togetherness so that we can move forward into a phenomenal relationship?
All right. So my personal opinion on that is you have to take selfishness out of that equation altogether. And whatever it takes to take the selfishness out, meaning whether you need to go to therapy to find out why is it that you're selfish? Is it something that, you've seen growing up in your childhood? Is it something that you were exposed to? Was it a bad experience, like in a relationship that hurt you now that you're closed off? So now your selfishness is all about you, so you have to divulge what that selfishness comes from. And if you're able to do that, then you're able to take that out of the equation. Then you're able to start creating togetherness because it's no longer about you and it's about us.
Right. Okay. So it's just really reconfiguring your mind to think us as opposed to you and me.
Correct.
Right. And that's one of the things I work with also on a lot of couples. The language that they've created is a very separated language. They speak of your child, your responsibility, what you do, versus what I do, and it becomes a versus each other, and so that becomes the pattern that the relationship starts. That's the trajectory that the relationship starts to go towards. So you're saying just it's time to first of all take into consideration the things that you're saying and how you view your partner. You view your partner as a team, as a teammate.
Correct. And the thing is also, a lot of people say relationships are 50-50, right? I don't agree with that.
I don't either.
Relationships are 100-100. You put in 100% and she puts in 100% and you got 200% right there. Right. Just like you said, a lot of people talk with, oh, your kid, so that's your 50%, or, you do this, that's your 50%. No, it's our kid. It's our responsibility. It's 100% me, 100% you.
Absolutely. I 1000%. I've been, I think as you begin to study this stuff, you begin to see some of the similarities between a lot of couples and why, and that's one of the common themes that I've seen also is that people think that they should bring half and half. No, when you're in a team, you do the best that you can do in your particular area. And I think a lot of people haven't established their particular area and how it contributes to the whole bigger picture. So people are trying to do and overextend themselves by saying, well, since you're not going to do it, I'll do it.
Right.
Because they haven't established, okay, like this is where I'm strongest in. This is where you're strongest in. So, of course, you're going to have a lot more leeway. And that's where the 100% comes in, as opposed to my area. And this is what creates uniqueness. In the last episode, we talked about maintaining your uniqueness in a relationship, but without understanding what you have to offer, it's going to be hard to know what you don't have to offer.
Correct. And it's all about knowing yourself too.
Exactly. And by knowing what you don't have to offer, you allow that person to be the best person they are within the relationship also, is what I've noticed. It definitely helps to keep the relationship alive and thriving.
Yeah, definitely.
So there's so much to cover. In your practice, because I want to come back to the other part, to communication but in your practice, what are some of the challenges that you faced in terms of navigating with a couple or individual to get to a place to where they decide to be? Meaning that, is it let me see how I can formulate this question. Is it more so that a person usually doesn't know what they want, or they haven't seen what they should want, so it's kind of tough for you to help them develop and evolve towards an end goal because they just don't know what it looks like. Has that been an experience?
No, I definitely understand what you're saying. But one of I guess the problem I should also address with that is that when I'm talking to couples, right, they don't know what they want and they don't know what love is, right? Because a lot of people think that, I'm going to get in this relationship and I'm going to love this person. But if you don't know how to love yourself, you can't give something that you don't have. And like I told you, I coach off of biblical principles, and the Bible talks about, love yourself, love your neighbor to the same degree that you love yourself, right? So even if you're not, a Christian or biblical principles, that makes so much sense. Because if I'm going to, like, say, if you asked me for money, right? And if I don't have $5, I can't give you $5, right? So if I have the love for myself, then I can give love. But people don't know what love is. So it's a challenge to try to get them to understand that, hey, look, you have to first love yourself. And then, I show them in biblical principles what love is, what the definition of love. And a lot of the times they are in a relationship where the other person is abusive to them, right? And they'll be like, well, this person doesn't love me. And you're absolutely right, because that doesn't correlate with anything that the Bible talks about. But it's also showing that you don't love yourself because you're allowing that, right? Because if you love yourself, you're not going to sit up there and allow yourself to be mistreated over and over and over. Yes, it might happen one time, or two times. But if you continue to allow that, that's showing yourself that you do not love yourself. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So help us get a better idea of what it means, what love means.
All right. So, in 2 Corinthians, I believe it is, they talk about love is patient. Love is kind, right? Love does not envy, right? So if you really look at it, love is a choice, right? So if this person is verbally abusing you, or if they're putting you down, if they're physically abusing you, they're choosing to do that, right? They're not choosing to be patient with you. They're not choosing to not put their hands on you. They're not choosing to not let their ego, get in the way when you guys have a disagreement. They're choosing to allow these things to basically run them or control them, right? So love is a choice. A lot of people think like love is a feeling, right? And think about it, right? Feelings are chemicals. So feelings can change at any point in time. So there's couples that have been married for 50 years. You think that they haven't got into a disagreement. You don't think that at some point in time that their feeling might have changed for that other person. It might not have changed for them long, but when it did change, guess what? They made a choice to continue to love that person. And that's why they were able to work through this, and they continued, and they're thriving 50, 60 years of marriage.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it's all about the choices you make. It's all about the choices you make. And
according to biblical principles, So, I just want to make that clear because, some people, they might not believe in the Bible. So they might believe that, love is a feeling. Because I asked one of my clients, I said, well, tell me, can you describe what love is? Right. And they said, well, it's a strong feeling or sensation that you want to spend the rest of your life with somebody. And I mean, that's cool. But like, what are you going to do when that person makes you mad? Are you going to continue to choose to love them when they make you mad? Because when you get mad, your feelings change sometimes for a person, correct?
Exactly.
So love is a choice. Is, like I said, it's the choices that you make to be there for a person. It's the commitment that you make to be there and be patient with that person, to be kind with that person, and to go through the struggles with that person.
Absolutely. One of the best definitions I've ever heard about love, besides the biblical description, but one of my mentors, he told me, he said he was about 95 years old, had been married. His wife had passed away, but they were married for upwards of 70 years. And he told me one of the best definitions. He said, love is an itch that cannot be scratched. And that's always one of the things that stuck with me, meaning that you're going to continuously try to search it out, but you'll never, it'll always be right outside of your reach, in the sense that the way I feel about my wife, it constantly changes. I can say I figured it out, But then it's like there's always more. Like now
Right.
it's expanded. So now I have to continuously search her out and search my understanding of who she
Right.
is, and I have to continuously develop, and it's just it's almost like a horse with a carrot in front of him. You know what I mean?
Right.
You're constantly chasing this understanding, this awareness, and in that comes a lot of different feelings, a lot of different emotions, because like you said, our emotions, I always tell people, never go off of how you feel. Feelings
Right.
change, like you said, feelings change, feelings, they're all over the place.
Right.
But it's really allowing yourself to say, okay, and another thing, I like to look at it as you give that person like an account in your
Mhm.
relationship. You give that person an account. So based on what you know about that person thus far, you're gonna say, okay, I know this person meant something different, but
Right.
let me figure out what they're trying to say. And
Correct.
so that's what I like to do with within my relationship. I tell myself, even though I feel this way right now, I know I'm going to feel different probably in another 2 hours.
Right.
So let me allow myself to have my wife let things calm down, and then let's go back and reconvene.
And see what you just did there, right? Is you're choosing to be kind and you're choosing to be patient. You see
Hmm.
what I'm saying? So, and that's what the biblical definition of love is, along with other things.
Hmm.
So those are just two of the things that you just demonstrated right there, showing that, hey, look, I'm choosing to love my wife. I'm not allowing my emotions to dictate how I feel, because, and we'll just use that as an example of the form of work. People that work regular jobs, nothing wrong with that. We need them. We need people to fly planes and do all that extra stuff.
Hmm.
But nonetheless, if you didn't feel like going to work,
Right,
right, you're
right,
not going to do a job, right?
right. Exactly.
So the thing is, you're making these choices. You got to make sound choices. That's what I should say. You don't want to make idiotic choices. I
Right.
mean, and we all make mistakes in our relationships. I've made plenty of mistakes in my relationship, and I'm pretty sure you've made mistakes in your relationship as well. But the thing is, how do we deal with that? Do we have the tools to effectively deal with the hurt, or the I wouldn't say bad intention, but the hurt that we basically caused our spouse or partner.
Right.
And there was another video that I talked about not too long ago, where you don't just want to resolve the issue, you want to reconcile the relationship, right?
Absolutely. Wow.
Because
Wow.
resolving the issue, you can get an external solution,
Hmm.
but the problem can still be happening inside,
Absolutely.
right? So now, if you can clear up the problem inside you, and you can clear up the problem inside, your partner, and you guys reconcile, because reconcile means bring back to harmony, bring back to friendship, right?
Hmm.
So you can always resolve something, but still be mad at that person. You can be like, okay, this is how we're going to resolve this, but I'm still bitter in here.
It's the
So
resentment.
right. So you have to you have to reconcile the relationship.
Yeah, because a lot of people hold on to the resentment of, and I'll say it like this: a lot of people hold on to the resentment because they've established a pattern of holding on to resentment.
Yes.
So
Right.
that kind of leads me into the next question: how important is the self work? Um, how important is the self work in a relationship? Now, there's prior to self work, and then there's inside of the relationship self work.
Right.
So how important, and how does a person, because when you're by yourself, I will say this: when you're by yourself, it's hard to do the self work. And I'm framing the question, but when you're by yourself, it's harder to do the self work, because I look at, and what I've learned about relationships are a mirror for who you really are.
Right.
They reflect it when you're by yourself. Like you pretty much are selfish, because it's just you that you have to worry about. You got, what do I want to eat? Okay, well, this is what I want to eat. What do I want to do? This is what I want to do. And so it's easy to do that, but that kind of branches over into a relationship too. So now that you have someone who's holding up that mirror to you inside of a relationship, and they're showing you who you are, how do you begin to do the work on yourself while still having to operate within the relationship also?
Oh, that's a very, very good question. I like that question. So I'm gonna start off by doing the work by yourself, and then we'll get into the relationship, right? So I think I said it earlier in the podcast so far, is your character relationship worthy, right? And so you're probably like, well, what do you mean by that? So yeah, you're not, when you're around your friends, your family, your coworkers, right? Are you showing integrity when you talk to them, right? Are you showing, like, if you tell your friend or you're telling your family member that you're going to do something, are you committed to doing that, right? So that's what I mean by, and those are just two examples of self work. Because if you're unable to do that with your friends, family, whatever, what makes you think that you're truly going to be able to do that in a relationship? So start there. That's where you want to start. You want to start with the people closest to you. Hey, look, am I being a man or a woman of my word? Am I holding integrity when I talk to you? Am I, do I have your back when you're not around? Am I, how should I frame this? Am I basically, like, is my character relationship worthy? And that's how you can tell by the people that you hang around. Like, what do you do with them? If you're with your family, right, and you feel like, and we're going to go back to this example, and you feel like eating something, but say, one of your family members wants to eat something else. Are you going to be selfish and be like, no, I can't do that because I want this, or are you going to say, hey, I'll take a look at the menu and see what they have there, and maybe I can eat something there. You see what I'm saying? Compromise. So that's what I mean by relationship character worthy. So now you're talking about doing the work while you're in a relationship, correct?
Right. Yep.
So now doing the work while you're in a relationship, it's very much almost like the same thing. Right. So, and I know it's hard because, a lot of people are selfish. A lot of people, want what they want. They like what they like. And I get that because I like what I like. I want what I want. Right. But nonetheless, you have to, like I said, you have to get rid of that selfishness. You have to communicate with your partner. Hey, look, this is how I'm feeling about a certain situation, and I don't want to be selfish about this. So help me, not be selfish about this. You have to be vulnerable in order to, and you have to be aware that there is a problem in order for you to fix the problem. Right. You see what I'm saying? So in order to work on that, you just have to be very, very open. You have to put the ego aside and let your partner know that, hey, look, I'm struggling with this. Can you help me with this? And if they are unable to help you with that completely, there's coaches, there's therapists are more for that type of thing. So, there's therapy. If you truly want to change, right, there's avenues for you to change. And I always say, go to God first, and ask him to change your heart. And then, the Bible talks about faith without works is dead. You can believe that God's going to change your heart, but if you're not doing the work, it's not going to happen.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I really think that, just being vulnerable, just communicating with your partner and letting them know that you're struggling with this. And if they can't help, going to therapy is a very big one.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, wow, very powerful stuff. That's some amazing stuff. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll get back to that because I want to get with you on the compromise thing. I want to get more into that. So we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come right back to compromising within a relationship. Awesome. All right, you guys stay tuned. Ladies, if you're like most women going through the dating process, then you know that finding the right man can be very difficult. With so many men out there playing dating games, looking for women to add as notches under their belts, it can seem hopeless. The Husband Material Guide, written by yours truly, Coach R. Anthony, was written to help you to be able to distinguish between the type of guys to take serious and the type of guys to avoid, saving you both time and emotional distress. So if you're tired of learning about men and dating the hard way, then go to relationshipsandchill.com/The Husband Material Guide, pre-order now and save $5. All right, you guys, we are back with Stephen L. Robinson, coach, author, and public speaker. And when we left off, we were going to be talking about compromise. So And so I guess I'll start it off because I kind of have a difference of opinion, not from you, but just the overall belief system that
Right.
is out there about compromise. And I truly believe, and before I had that same idea, that compromise for a long time, that you should compromise. Then I started like thinking about it. And I'm like, nobody really likes compromise. We compromise at work. We compromise, in other areas. But when it comes to a relationship, I really started to understand that the key for me would be to sacrifice. And by sacrifice, I mean, it's not going to always be about what I want as an individual, right? In life, period. There's not going to be, I'm not going to have the ability to compromise to say, okay, what do I want? What do you want? Let's blend them together so that neither of us really get what we really want, but we get a variation of what we want. We get a slice of what we want. So I decided, before I met my wife, I said, you know what? When I meet the woman that I want to be with, I'm not going to compromise. That was the first thing. That was like my first mental shift. And then, you know what? I said, what I'm going to do is a little bit better. I'm going to sacrifice, meaning that I'm going to allow her to fully enjoy what she wants to enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know that with human nature, if you go and punch somebody, they're going to punch you back, or they're going to fight 9 times out of 10.
Right.
If you just meet a stranger. So within understanding the law of human nature, that we are reciprocators, meaning that what I do for you, you're going to want to do for me. So if I offer you a bag of chips, some of my chips, you're going to be like, hey, I got this. I got something to drink. You want something to drink? So that principle has not failed me. When me and my wife want, like, if I want something or she wants something, then I'll say, you know what? I want you to fully enjoy what you want, because I know eventually I'm going to want something, and I'm going to want to fully enjoy what I want. So I don't want to take away from your enjoyment of what you desire. So I'm going to let you have that, and I'm going to enjoy it with you. So that way I can understand more about who you are in the fullest capacity of what you like to do or what you want to do.
Okay.
As opposed to like neither one of us getting what we want, or, a little like you're more satisfied at the fact that you get what you want. And that creates a lot of resentment in a lot of relationships, is because I'm constantly always never getting what I want, but you're constantly getting most of what you want. You see what I'm saying? Because people sometimes will like kind of lead on and say, well, I may not be able to get the fullest extent of watching the game, but I can watch at least to the third quarter. All right, now I got to watch 8 hours of TV show with you, gossip show or whatever. You know what I mean? Like I got to watch 8 hours for 3/4 of a football game.
Right.
Just as an example. So, but that's what I developed, and that's what I decided as far as sacrifice versus compromising. I decided that I was going to just, allow my wife to enjoy whatever she wanted to enjoy. And then when it came my turn, there was really not much she can say about it, but it allowed her to fully engulf herself into what I'm doing and what she's doing. I'm allowing her to fully enjoy it, and I can get a better understanding of who she is. So, but what do you, give me your thoughts on just your perspective of compromising.
I like that. And however, I just have a quick question though. For you, like, so you said sacrifice. So if you're sacrificing, is that a form of compromising because you're saying, okay, well, I'm gonna allow you to have this now because I know when my time comes around, you're going to do the same. So isn't that in a sense compromising to a certain degree to where, because whereas like a regular compromise would be like, okay, right now we're both not necessarily getting what we want in full, so I'm gonna let you get what you want. I'm not gonna get what I want in full at all, and then later on I'll get what I want in full. So isn't that a form of compromise? And just kind of curious from my end.
Well, in a sense, it's not really, because even if it never comes around, to where, but that's the thing, like, it's not even about, I just said that because I was speaking in terms of how human nature works, and how a person will reciprocate what is given to them.
Okay.
So, So I would say it depends on how you view it, but I view it as like, even if I never get what I want, because I may not, necessarily want that, but we're going to always want something as humans. But from the perspective of, without creating resentment, without creating a constant form of never getting what you want, which eventually leads people to want to cast off restraints, meaning they don't want to, or they'll just do it just for the sake, and then they'll run off behind the person's back and do what they want to do anyway.
Right.
Because they're so used to not getting what they want that they have to find a way to get what they truly want. So they find a way to do it behind the other person's back. So I would say it's a little bit different in terms of the perspective, meaning that you don't do it necessarily just because you're going to get your way eventually. You do it because inevitably you're going to want something, and you're going to want something that you enjoy, and you want that person to take the same joy in finding out more about you and learning. So I more so use it as like a time to build and grow within the relationship.
Got it. And I definitely see what you're saying in regards to that. And so my perspective on it is, generally when I say compromise, I'm talking about like two good-willed people.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not talking about people that are necessarily selfish and it's just take or whatever the case may be. So like for me, and I'll just use myself as an example. If I have a woman, right, and she wanted X, Y, and Z, right? Like how you said you would sacrifice for her because you want her to get the full excitement, you want her to get the full joy, or whatever the case may be. I feel the same exact way. I feel the same exact way, meaning that, if I don't know why I keep coming to food for like
you hungry?
But the fact is, like let's just say, like, if she wanted salad works, and we're gonna go back to the whole KFC salad works thing, and I want KFC or whatever the case may be, I find fulfillment in making her happy as well. Right. So I would find fulfillment in compromising, saying, okay, well, you know what, maybe I can't get KFC, but I can get chicken on my salad. You see what I'm saying? And so for me, I understand what you're saying. You're saying, okay, and like you said, I think it's on how you view it. I'm viewing it from a perspective of two good-willed people who truly want to make each other happy. And, because I think when the time comes around, like you said, you give, you kind of get what is given to you. So if I say next time, we're going out to eat, and I'm like, man, I want Red Lobster, and she's kind of like, well, I feel like Outback Steakhouse, but you know what? No, let's go to Red Lobster. I'll get a steak from Red Lobster this time. I do agree with you. You kind of get what you give out. So that's my perspective on compromising with good-willed people.
Right. No, I definitely understand. I think it's very similar if you look at, and it is definitely scenario by scenario, case by case. Obviously without going into like every single micro version of it, but I think it's just a mental shift, because I think under the guise of compromise means that, okay, I don't get what I want, or I get a little bit of what I want, and you get a little bit of what you want, and we find happiness within that. But I think it's more of a mental shift for me to say, I'm going to allow you to enjoy that, so that, I can see you in a different environment. I can see you in your natural habitat, as opposed to thinking like, dang, I still want Red Lobster, I still want KFC. It's a mental shift to say, okay, I want you to enjoy the fullest of what you have to offer, because then it creates joy within the relationship. So whatever you allow in the relationship will be the next pattern or the next season of the relationship. And I think a lot of people, good-willed or not, every day you don't feel the same, but like you said, it's a choice. It's just a mental shift to say, even though I don't feel this way, I'm going to allow myself to view it the way I need to view it in order to make it, the type of reality I want it to be, so to speak. So that's what I mean by that. So, but man, it's just so much stuff that we could talk about.
I know, I love it, man. I love it.
Yeah, so that was one of the main things for me. But man, I guess I want to get more into what does it look like for a couple. What does a happy couple look like? Because most people are so used to dysfunctional relationships, they think you have to argue and they think you have to fight all of the time, and you have to, it has to be unpleasant in order for you to have a relationship. Do you believe that that's true, and how do you believe it can be?
I don't necessarily believe that that's true, but I think it's everybody, happiness looks different. So I can't say that, a relationship, for a happy relationship, it has to look like X, Y, and Z
I
all the way
understand.
across.
Mm-hmm.
Because, my version of happiness might not be your version of happiness. So what I will say, though, is if they do fight and if they do argue, right, good-willed people, if when that happens, what are they doing in order to fix it? Do they have the tools to fix it? Because relationships, there's not going to be no perfect relationship. There are going to be relationships where, you might get into a disagreement, or, and it might be a real heated disagreement. But do you have the tools to resolve and reconcile that issue and the relationship? So to answer your question, I can't necessarily say that a happy relationship has to look like X, Y, and Z. But what I will tell you, though, is a happy relationship, definitely from my studies and my interview with a lot of people, it doesn't look like dysfunction after dysfunction after dysfunction.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? It doesn't look like that. But you are going to have some times where you disagree, and it's just how you work through it.
Absolutely. And so a functional, I guess the better terminology will be a functional relationship. What does a functional, like, how does a couple function within a functional relationship? I guess that's a better question.
That's a good question. So I would say, and I keep always going back to this, and it's being able to communicate.
Being able to communicate.
And not just communicate, but effectively communicating and connecting with your partner. And for me personally, and like I said, everybody's happiness is not the same, but having God at the center of our relationship. So for me, having God at the center of our relationship, and me being able to lead my partner, and me being able to add to her happiness, and being able to connect with her, being able to effectively communicate with her, and being able to, work things out if we do have a problem, that's what, functioning in a functional relationship looks like for me.
I got you. And I want to take that a step further about communication, because this is another thing that I kind of stumbled across in my studies. It is more so about transparency or transparent communication, because you have all kinds of communication. You got nonverbal communication, you have verbal communication, which is only 7%, typically of what a person actually says. And then you have body language. So you have all these different forms of how a person communicates. And lies also are a form of communication. So, so I make it very specific when I say it's not just about communication. It's about transparent, honest communication about who you truly are and how you truly feel as an individual. That makes the difference. Because we communicate a lot of things throughout the day. We communicate things. We actually agree with more stuff than we don't agree with, than we should in relationships. And then it doesn't show. It may not show up within that first month or first year or even the fifth year, but eventually the real you will have to come out, and then it will be a surprise to that person, because they've believed what you said and they believed what they wanted to believe. That you were communicating. So I think to take it a step further and be more specific, it's about the true and honest, transparent communication of who you really are as an individual.
Correct. I you know what? You said that spot on the money. I could not agree more. You're absolutely right about true and honest communication. So, what? I'm actually going to start using that when I talk to people. True and honest communication. I love it.
Hey, that's what we're here to do, man. I mean, that's what we're here to do, is to give people the tools. So I want you to elaborate a little bit more on the tools that people need. We know they need honest communication, but what other tools could be helpful for individuals and couples to start the process of revolutionizing their relationships?
I honestly think
for the better.
Yeah, for the better. I think mentorship too. And I think me and you, we talked about this the other day. they have what is called, one of my friends, they're looking at starting what is called premarital mentoring. Right. So like, and that's for people that want to get married and stuff like that. But I think just having a mentor that has had or that has a successful relationship, period, is very, very vital. And the reason why I say that is because if you look at it, right, if you want to start a business, a lot of the times when we start a business, we get a business mentor, or we find somebody that has done what we're looking to do. And we kind of get advice and stuff like that from them. So why does it have to be different when it comes to relationships?
Right.
Why can't we find somebody who has done what we're looking to do, and that's be in a successful relationship, that can help us with the tools to revolutionize our relationship for the better? So I think that's definitely one idea. Another idea is becoming that person, that boyfriend, that husband that you truly want to be. And how do you do that? By studying. You study, read books. Get in the word. The word teaches, talks about loving, and it talks about all those things. So get in the word, read books. Like I said, I did say the mentoring, and coaching would be like a form of mentoring and things of that nature. I think, and don't pay attention to what we always see on TV. A lot of people, they pay attention to what we see on TV. They look at, some famous couple, and it looks well, from the outside, but we don't really know what's going on the inside. So stop comparing your relationship to other people's relationship.
Wow, that's a big one for a lot of couples. That's a big one. That's a big one, because a lot of people love to look on the outside, and they get the feeling based on the look, and they don't feel that way about their relationship. So they start now turning to their significant other, like, why don't we have that?
Right. Exactly.
But the reality is, like you said, if you have couples that are actually, or coaches or therapists or whatever you can find to help you get a better idea of how the intricacies work of a relationship and the moving parts, you won't be so quick to look at a couple that looks like they got it together, but a couple that actually functions within a relationship, and they know how to, like you said, they have the tools to navigate different parameters within the relationship that could potentially end a lot of relationships. They now have a more of an awareness of how, and that comes from studying the scriptures. That's where I got majority of my information from, and I'm sure it's the same for you, and just understanding human nature.
Correct. Yeah, and that's a big one. Understanding human nature. I definitely agree with you on that completely. You want to start studying human nature and things. So yeah.
So man, I mean, this has been an amazing conversation. I hope you guys have really enjoyed it. You got any suggestions and any, because I mean, there's so much you said, so much amazing stuff that you said, man. And this ain't gonna be the last time. Obviously, we gonna keep this thing going, man, because I think we made we made a lot of great progress, and I hopefully it's helped a lot of you guys understand that it's not so cut and dry, but it's not so complicated either.
Right. Correct. And when I started studying relationships, that's what I started to figure out, that it's not cut and dry, but it's not as complex as we make it seem.
Exactly.
All we need to do is we need to develop the tools. Once we develop the tools, then any relationship could truly thrive. Any relationship. I absolutely 1000% agree. The tools are there very. So where can they get more tools from you? So they can if you guys have Instagram, you can go on my Instagram. I'm dropping videos all the time. Because you've seen. But so my Instagram is at Stephen L. Robinson, and that's spelled with a PH. So that's STEPHENL. And then Robinson, ROBINSON. Or you can go to my website. I'm just now starting to reblog, and that's StephenLRobinson.net. Or you can go to StephenLRobinson.com. It takes you to the same place. Or you can just email me if you have any questions or concerns at Stephen@StephenLRobinson.net. I'm starting up a YouTube channel. The only platform I've been on was Instagram. I do a lot of speaking engagements. So, I'll put out the roadmap for that here in the next couple of weeks, because I have something very, very big that I'm working on. And when I release what I'm working on, it's going to blow your socks off. And then I'm also working on what is called RYR Academy. It's Revolutionize Your Relationship Academy. So I'm going to be giving, there's going to be videos, there's going to be tips, there's going to be all types of stuff. I'm going to bring in other coaches, and you're going to be one of them. So
hey, man, I appreciate it.
so you're going to be one of them. But yeah, I'm going to bring in different coaches, different therapists. So that's the type of stuff that I'm working on. But as of right now, Instagram is where you can find me. You can go to my website. You can email me, and you'll see a lot more of me here in 2019. Man, I'm working.
Hey, man, we can't wait, because as you guys can see, this is some excellent, very clear, very, very easily to follow information, and it is not complex. We overcomplicate things, and I think the best thing a good coach or therapist can do is simplify it. Simplify it. One of my mentors told me, when things become overwhelmed, take a step back and simplify.
I agree.
So that's been today's episode of the Relationships and Chill podcast. Make sure you guys check us out on Instagram, as well as Stephen L. Robinson, who's been an amazing, phenomenal guest. We've really enjoyed it. So we will have listen, this is the start of a great relationship between us. So, he'll be back on. So you guys make sure you stay tuned. Like I said, Relationships and Chill TV on YouTube. And we'll catch you guys on the next go-round. This has been Coach R. Anthony, the Relationships and Chill podcast, the ultimate podcast for relationships and dating. And we're out of here, y'all. Peace.
Thanks for listening to Relationships and Chill. For more information on cultivating the relationship of your dreams, please follow us on Instagram or Facebook at Relationships and Chill, or subscribe to our YouTube channel at Relationships and Chill TV. You can also visit our website at www.relationshipsandchill.com. Together, let's make relationships great again.